This session, we have two eminent speakers with us. The first one, you are already familiar, Mr. Ishan Ovid, Secretary General CIMIC. So His Excellency is doing a great job for the promotion of halal through CIMIC platform. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Ishan, for your kind support throughout the event. I know that the CIMIC has done a wonderful job in arranging the speaker and making this event apparently fruitful and successful. So now, Mr. Ishan, is over to you for your lecture.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Sayyid Ghulam Sharaf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished participants, dear brothers and sisters, and dear brother and sister in Pakistan who also there in the hall. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm glad to be in this panel and to see esteemed participants safe and sound. I'm blessed to have the opportunity to give a brief introduction about CIMIC, its approach to halal, and what has been done to have unified halal standards. As we would all agree, halal industry was much less of a concern before industrialization and globalization, which have radically changed the nature of the manufacturing and paved the way for traveling of products and people all around the world. Halal certifying concept was primarily considered to be limited to meat, but it gradually has expanded to all food and animal feed types, additives, test methods, clothing, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, tourism, finance, agriculture, logistics, etc. Overall, all possible aspects of Muslim life. Demand the need and meet certain requirements, standardization has become a very essential companion to the halal industry. As a matter of fact, halal industry now obviously cannot be considered separately from standardization. And this is what we are doing under CIMIC. We bring halal and standardization together to have a professional system for halal by applying what has been done for ages in standardization field. Dear brothers and sisters, Muslims have waited so long for halal certification to be conducted in a transparent system by trustworthy organizations. However, in the past, halal was only limited to a religious concept, and this was certainly a big mistake considering various technical aspects of halal. Additionally, it's our responsibility to explain and show how halal should be handled as a technical issue to be supported and guided by Islamic rules. However, it's very disappointing to see that some people only care about halal food certificate, but not questioning or focusing on halal as a technical matter. For that reason, at every platform, we try to demonstrate that halal is more than a mark or a logo. Halalness is like a science, and it requires standards and expertise. Its consistency depends on the accuracy of the test methods. If we fail to recognize this aspect, we can never move forward. In this regard, since 2010, CIMIC as intergovernment organization, as well as an OIC institution, has been given the task to developing standards and achieving uniformity in methodology, laboratory testing, accreditation, and conformity assessment activities among the member states. Developing halal standards is not only a work of CIMIC, but it is important to focus more to the technical aspects of halal. Over the last decade, halal industry has gone global, and we all watched and experienced how it occurred. And by witnessing its expansion, we became more accountable for our roles and tasks as actors of halal industry. And today, I will explain CIMIC's approach to halal as the unity of 45 countries, which is working really hard in line with the new vision is creating a quality infrastructure that improves economy, welfare, and protects our member states. This vision also points that halal is part of quality infrastructure. It is very significant to remind that standards are not such documents, but include Islamic rules. Within CIMIC, halal is perceived as a technical issue. Thereof, halal standards are developed within technical committees by the experts of members and industry, as well as specialists from International Academy of the OIC, which is our partner and an important license to relevant technical committees for Islamic rules and Sharia rules in developing standards. As of 2021, we have 17 technical committees and a special committee on standards for conformity assessment established under CIMIC. And what CIMIC has done to unify standards in reflected is reflected on the outputs of these technical committees, which have their own title, scope, business plan, and working program, and continuously work and publish standards on various subjects. As you can see, there is an advanced system in CIMIC for preparing halal standards. Our standards are not to the product of one country. Our standards do not reflect fatwas of a group or a region. Our standards do not block trade activities among countries. On the contrary, CIMIC has been and will be in struggle for providing added value and trust to halal products and services with its high quality halal standards developed for production, certification, and accreditation. Till now, we have all witnessed how the attempts and efforts to replace conformity assessment with the country-based recognition system have been becoming only a technical barrier to trade. Distinguished guests, dear brothers and sisters, I sincerely would like to ask what we were aiming with halal and what we have achieved during all those years. Halal needs professionally developed standards, and halal conformity assessment can be strong only if we have standards for each pillar to ensure the quality and reliability of the whole system. Without joint international standards developed for certification or application, we cannot have a complete structure, and this will not halal even a little further. By this year, 2021, we have published 16 halal standards on halal products, certification, application, cosmetics, gelatin, uh, supply chain, tourism, food additives, conformity assessment, management systems, and service sites. There are also ongoing projects on halal animal feeding stuff, pharmaceuticals, as well as test methods, which is soon to be published for, for your use. All these topics require specific expertise and resources and cannot be useful if published by only a country. We need cooperation and we certainly need accreditation as an essential element of conformity assessment. It is very unfortunate that country-based recognition concept was chosen our setting up a professional system. It is very clear that it did not work out well since the recognition is only serving to the needs of a few countries. However, most of Islamic member states have realized the importance of halal accreditation, and now accreditation, according to OIC standard, is initiated by national accreditation bodies of Islamic member states. And the number of accredited halal certifiers is expected to increase in upcoming period, which is very good news for Muslims, attentive non-Muslims to consume reliable products that are certified according to OIC standards. Cynics think halal concept as a service to Ummah. We don't want to halal to be a monopoly or a technical barrier. If halal is a must for all Muslims, then why limiting it or making it a problem when we have solutions under the Sunni? Why Sunni standards are here and there for your use since 2011. So there is only one way to move forward. Member states need to stop their national approach and adapt OIC standards in order to take a step for establishing OIC global halal quality infrastructure, which is intended for Muslims and all humankind. If countries would insist on their national system, this will only prevent us from reaching our goals in short periods. On the other hand, I'm very optimistic to see increasing awareness on the necessity for joint halal standards and getting your continuous support in this regard. Once again, I would like to organize it and pray for Allah's grace and blessings for our efforts. This is my words under this panel. If there's a question, I can answer. Thank you for your passion and attention. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishan, for your wonderful explanation of halal concept and industry, and particularly the role of CIMIC in this great effort. So the forum is open for question. If you have, just let me know, so maybe I can ask. Or maybe the participants who are participating through online, so they can just chat, write something, the question in the chat box, if any. That's the drawback of online session, always. It's not that easy to ask questions. So anyway, once again, brother, thank you very much for your wonderful talk and your support. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. So now our second speaker is Dr. Vinay Dalan. He is a big name, in the field of halal sciences and research, because Dr. Vinay is the founding director, Halal Science Center, Chulegong University, Thailand, Vice President, the Central Islamic Council of Thailand, Chairman, the Halal Standard Institute of Thailand. Addition to all these positions, he actually served the halal community since last several decades. He has published over 30 books, 3,000 papers related to halal, more than 50 reviewed scientific articles published internationally and locally. So it's a large number. If I'm going to read it, it takes around 5 to 10 minutes. So once again, I would like to welcome Dr. Vinay for his talk. So Dr. Vinay, over to you. Must be
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala alafin nabiyah wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, I would like to shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me a very good opportunity to meet with some of good friends from Pakistan. My topic today, I would like to give information on halal science and technological support for Islamic scholars, judgment, fatwa. This is only the case of COVID-19 vaccine production. This is just a very hot issue in Thailand for the moment. I think also in South Asia region, uh, in, including Pakistan. Okay, as we all know, in Islam, Fasalu ala zikri in kuntum la ta'lamun. If we don't know, we better ask the one who know. This is from Surah An-Nar, Ayah 43. When we don't know something, we better ask the one who know. And for the fatwa, according to the Sharia, then the ulama have to find the one who know. For the food industry and especially for the pharmaceutical industry, then scientists, pharmacologists, pharmacists, medicine, physician have to assist our ulama for give for judgment for the issue of halal and haram. Then halal scientists working as nurse, assisting ulama. Ulama work as a surgeon in operation room. Then the responsibility for halal scientists, we work as a nurse in the operation room. Then we have to provide the proper tool to the ulama in any question he may have. Then we have to give or provide the appropriate tool for the ulama. But vice versa, scientists or halal scientists must have their basic background or knowledge for in the field of Islam. Okay, I will give you some fatwa. This is a shade of grain on halal. Halal is not black or white. There's some shade of gray, from the dark gray, black, until to the white. Then we have a wajib. Wajib are important. Then I will not give more information on this because all of us understand this. Then we have a sunat or sunnah. We have the harus or mubah. Makruh, all halal. Makruh, but is distasteful. And finally, we have haram. Then scientists, halal scientists have to understand the differences between this shade of gray of halal. And some condition we have to understand also. Some definition. Halal we know, permissible. Haram we know, forbidden. Mashbuh, doubtful or suspect. But we have to understand also other terms like istihlak. Istihlak is mean perishing significant amount of impure element mixed with other elements that are beneficial, clean, halal, and in abundance to the extent that the impure element losses its characteristic like its color, smell, and taste. For example, najis, like some pee or some dunk in the river, then finally, the water in the river is still halal, even though it contains some najis. This is we call istihlak. And istihala is mean a transform, change. Najis or harami material are transformed to another form, which is different from the original material, either in the same criteria, taste, and nature. Istihala, something like the transform of the alcohol. Alcohol is haram. But if it finally transformed by the fermented by bacteria to become uh, vinegar, then it's halal. This is istihala. The last is darurah. Darurah is a necessity. Allow Muslim to commit on unlawful act if their life, body, dignity, intellect, and property are threatened. Something that vaccine, even it contain haram or najis, but it's very necessary for Muslim to have the vaccinated, then can be considered as halal because it's darurah. This is halal scientists must understand about the definition of this word. And this is how halal science work for the industry or even the pharmaceutical industry in order to assure halal safety and integrity. Then we have to play a role since the beginning of the process for the replacement for mashbuh, ingredient and material, the preparation of the raw material, the process, the production process in the factory. The product have to check whether it's adulterated with the haram or najis. We have to check with our tool, like halal forensic laboratory that we're going to discuss. But I think our staff will give more information about the technique, about how to analyze the najis and haram present in the food sample or pharmaceutical product. Also the halal logistic, and then we also apply ICT platform, computerized platform to assist the work for halal scientists. Okay, this is throughout the supply chain that the role of the halal scientists have to play. And this is an algorithmic design for halal scientists. Every time that we work, then we decide algorithm. This is, for example, of the halal accreditation together with the Islamic Council for halal accreditation in Thailand. Then I will not give information on this. You may take our slide and then finally study finally later on. Okay, finally we will have the book for the ingredient list that we produce from the Halal Science Center here. And this is a digital network for creating halal sphere branding. Okay, you will study in detail, and in any question you may ask to the Halal Science Center later, and then we will give more information about the detail of this platform. Then we will go to the COVID-19 vaccine. This is a type of COVID-19. We may use a live or attenuated cell or virus, inactivated or kill virus, toxin from the inactivated toxin or subunit or even we can use something like a mRNA protein or vector. This is depend on the methodology that we use for preparation of vaccine. This is the way for the development of vaccine. You see from the bottom, we start from the SARS-CoV-2, the virus. Virus, there's RNA inside. Then we separate RNA. Then finally take some part of RNA, not use all, and develop into DNA and insert in the non-toxic virus that we call viral vector. Then instead of utilize SARS-CoV-2, then we insert in the vaccine something like much less dangerous virus that we call viral vector. And then we develop vaccine from this. Or from the other process, then finally we can use DNA and develop until to reach the mRNA. And then we use mRNA to produce vaccine. And or we use the derivative or any product from the mRNA, something like a protein. Then we have many kind of vaccine. For example, from China, they have Sinovac that developed from kill SARS-CoV-2 virus, directly from virus. This is the have Sinovac, Sinopharm. In Thailand, we use vaccine from China, Sinovac and Sinopharm. And from the viral vector, there are several kinds of vaccine. The very popular is AstraZeneca. Thailand have the factory for the AstraZeneca to produce vaccine of AstraZeneca from the company named Siam Bioscience in Thailand. Or Johnson and Johnson from United States. This is they also use viral vector. Or Sputnik, Gamaleya, they also use viral vector. For mRNA, this is a very new technique. You see, they have a they have a strength and also have the weakness for each kind of vaccine. For the mRNA, they have a Moderna, BioNTech, or Pfizer. For the Pfizer or BioNTech, this is developed by Turkish Muslim in German. Then they understand very well about the halal, haram, about the ingredient, about the adulteration, or even some kind to use some porcine protein or gelatin. Then I think it's for the halal and haram issue. Finally, we have the right man, Muslim, to consider whether it can be used for the vaccine production or not. This is a good for us. And for the protein, finally, they have a company in the United States. They use protein directly from the virus and produce to be some kind of vaccine, like a Novavax. This is a development of vaccine. And then this is the kind of vaccine. For example, this is from China, Sinovac and Sinopharm. They use cell directly, kill or inactivated cell. For the viral vector, this is Oxford, AstraZeneca, and Johnson Johnson. Then they use a vector. This is from the vector. Then they have a DNA and transfer to messenger RNA. Finally, produce some spike protein. This is in order to produce immune response. I will not give more information on this. This is how it works. And for the mRNA, this is a very new technology. And then we don't have enough information on this. We have to wait. But for the Chinese vaccine, we have ample information for that. But one thing that we have to consider for the halal scientists about the mashbu or doubtful ingredient in vaccine, there are two kinds. For example, intentionally added, they add intentionally, like thimerosal, mercury, aluminum, squalene, secretory substances, red blood cell, porcine pancreatic hydrolysate of casein, or even trypsin, and human albumin, fetal rhesus monkey lung cell. This is considered haram or maybe considered as mashbuh or doubtful. But scientists, we are not the ulama. We let the ulama to give a fatwa, right? Maybe this is all darura. But anyway, many companies know clearly about the this kind of substance can be prohibited for the vaccine production. Then finally they draw it out. Unintentionally contaminated disease something like cancer virus, like poliovirus disease have to be depend on the quality of the factory. Normally it's no contamination for the very good quality of manufacturer. And this is very important. This is the way the halal scientists from the Halal Science Center developed the technique for considering the halalness of the vaccine. Very important for the case of AstraZeneca. Now that there's some case of AstraZeneca in Thailand and in Southeast Asia. In our Southeast Asia, we follow the mazhab of Shafi'i. That's different from the Pakistan. In Pakistan, you follow Hanafi, the mazhab of Hanafi. That some fatwa we consider differently. For the Shafi'i, that some issue that we have to consider finely. And there's some case of trypsin. Trypsin, many sources of trypsin produced for halal for the vaccine production. For example, from the pancreatic protein from porcine. This is haram. But many techniques they use a recombinant protein or recombinant RNA. They produce, this is can be considered as a synthetic RNA. Then we can consider it's halal. And bovine trypsin. And also now they also develop the trypsin production from GM corn. You see, this is the plant-based production. Then can be considered as halal. From crustacean, from the sea animal, this is also considered halal. Or even from a sea fish, something like tuna liver, trypsin. You see, for many kind of sources of for trypsin production, majority of them can be considered halal. Only one, the porcine or pig. Then we have to consider whether it's halal or mashbu or haram. This is we have to give information to the ulama. This is the responsibility for the scientists to provide the information. And once we have trypsin, then finally we have to change the molecular structure of trypsin to be salt or saltification or crystallization. There's also other process, purification, until finally obtain trypsin EDTA. We have to ask whether this kind of a process can be considered as istihala because some molecular structure change, or we can consider as istihlak because it contains plenty of solvent in the process. There is abundance of solvent. And also after that, all trypsin have to eliminate it until it's received only virus or protein or RNA, only that by using cleansing process. Can this process considered as istilak if the protein source come from porcine? We have to ask and then discuss with the ulama. Yeah, but we have to provide very in detail the process to let the ulama understand quite well about the condition of the vaccine production until finally until to obtain the viral vector. They still have other step until to reach the vaccine, the product. Then this process can be considered as istilak or istihala. Yeah, but this is not the duty of the halal scientists. We understand the Sharia, then we provide the information to the ulama. This is the duty of halal scientists. But anyway, the vaccine is darura. Then we have to ask uh, whether it's from the haram source or from the halal. It's a darura, it's necessity for Muslim to use. Then this is for the inoculation in the body. Okay, the question finally on COVID-19 vaccine. Are there any doubtful or mashbuh ingredient? For example, that porcine gelatin or porcine trypsin used in manufacturing process of vaccine. And then we check the fatwa of many Islamic organizations worldwide. We found that for the Majelis Ulama of Indonesia, they said, yes, there's some mashbu inside. But the ulama, the Islamic Council of Australia and UK, many Islamic Council from UK, fatwa that no. Then there is debate. Because why? Because they follow the different mazhab. MUI follow Shafi'i. Australia and UK follow Hanafi. Then this kind of information you have to provide to the ulama from our side. The second question, are those possible doubtful ingredients present in vaccines after passing through the processes considered as totally transformed or istihala or totally perish or istilah? We have to consider because there is involved of the abundance of fluid for perishing, for cleansing of the product. MUIS, Majlis Ulama of Singapore, consider this is for the vaccine. For the vaccine of AstraZeneca, this is can be considered as istilak and also istihala because there is some transformation of the structure. Other question, are such COVID-19 vaccine considered as necessity or darurah for Muslim to use? UAE, the Majlis Ulama of United Arab Emirates, fatwa that this is darurah. Despite contain or not contain of porcine protein, it's not necessary to consider whether it have a porcine protein or not. It's darurah, not necessary to consider the content of porcine. It's darurah is darurah, is allow Muslim to use. And also the Central Islamic Council of Thailand, we consider similarly to UAE. It's darurah. And this is also considered by Malaysia. Okay, another question. Does AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine contain any prohibited ingredients? This is, we have to check scientifically. If there is some doubtful or haram ingredient present in the vaccine, then as I show you from my previous slide, we found finally that is scientifically no, there's no haram, there's no no adulteration of porcine, there is no utilization of pig substances, and this is confirmed by Islamic Council from Australia and UK, and also from the expert. As I mentioned before, the company, the branch company of the AstraZeneca is located in Bangkok. It produced here, and the expert from Chulalongkorn University and also the advisor, the main advisor of the Ministry of Public Health of Thailand, they told us from the Halal Science Center, they told us directly that they discussed with the authority from the company of AstraZeneca. That authority confirmed that there's no use of product from the animal. And we believe that they use the recombinant protein. This is quite, it's not new technology. Finally, they can, it's easier to use a recombinant protein or RNA. This is, then finally we check from our scientific paper and also from many discussions with some experts from the AstraZeneca and from the Ministry of Health of Thailand. We consider this is no contamination of animal protein. This is from our opinion. Then I think this is quite ample information. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vinay, for your wonderful talk. Indeed, a very much needed, and we all enlightened by learning very useful information. I personally admire your presentation, very informative. So, if there's any question from the forum, so maybe I can ask. Yes, please. You can come and ask by yourself as well if you would like. Okay, we do have a mic. So, so first question from this side, I think then I would ask some other people as well. Okay. So, Dr. Vinay, we have some questions from floor, so I hope that it would be clear to you. If not, just let me know. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Doctor, can we have a copy of your slide, please, for the reference?
Yes, we can send to you. And anyway, you can snapshot, right, from the monitor.
Yeah, okay.
We
Sure.
send to you.
We have a question, another question from this side. Here, इधर आइए, इस साइड पे आ जाए नीचे. Yes, you want to ask?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rene Dhalan, for your useful talk. You use one word. You use one word, halal ICT tracking. I need to know about this. What is it? Is it managed through manually processing, yeah, through a software?
Pardon?
Halal,
Not quite clear. Pardon?
halal ICT tracking. You use these words in your presentations. I need to know, is it managed through software?
Which word?
Actually, I think your second or third slide, you have mentioned the halal ICT tracking. The process
Okay. In one slide.
is it ask,
Yes.
is it
Okay. I will explain.
managing or by the help of software?
Okay. One of my slides I show about the digital platform. Then at the Halal Science Center, we develop a sort of platform program. This is IT. This is information technology. Then we develop the platform for tracking the haram or doubtful ingredient by using our platform. Then I show to you two slides about the algorithm and about the digital platform. Then it's rather complicated to explain here. But if some of you would like or be interested in this program, you may send some scientists or technician to the Halal Science Center in Bangkok. Then we will introduce to you, or even we can develop it together.
Okay, so no more questions. So once again, Dr. Vinay, we are very thankful for your presence or giving us a time and share your expertise with us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So without any break, we are going to move to the second technical session, which is standards for halal testing laboratories. And for that, we have a first speaker, Mr. Hazar Iqbal. He is actually director from Pakistan National Accreditation Council, and he's going to talk about the halal testing laboratory accreditation as per the requirements of ISO, IEC 7025 and 2017. So, brief introduction of Mr. Hazar Iqbal is actually completed his MPhil from in environmental science from NUST in 2015. He actually Mr. Azhar is actually appointed as a quality control and R&D manager at Perfect Pharma in 2005. During his industrial career, he has implemented ISO 19001, ISO 14001, and ISO IEC 17025 in different capacities. He joined Pakistan National Accreditation Council as a deputy director in January 2007, and currently he is serving as a director of PNAC. So, Mr. Azhar Iqbal.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. And this is an honor for me to speak on this topic, ISO 70025 in this training course. Although we have conducted 5-day training courses on the same topic, but I will try my best to summarize this topic in next 20 minutes. The content of my presentation is mainly focused on ISO 70025 and just to tell you the participants about the international perspective and importance of accreditation at international level. So my presentation will start briefly with the introduction of Pakistan National Accreditation Council and then international perspective of Halal accreditation, Halal testing requirements, techniques used in halal testing, and the topic ISO 17025. So why Pakistan National Accreditation Council? Actually, accreditation is not a new subject. It started back in 1995 when Pakistan signed WTO requirements in 1995. So accreditation is always support the implementation of WTO requirements. WTO has two agreements. One is TBT, technical barrier to trade, and the second is sanitary and phytosanitary. So the accreditation support the work of WTO. It also support international acceptance and mutual recognitions of each other's testing reports. I will discuss in detail in later. It also support to reduce the technical barriers to trades. There are two types of barriers. One is known barrier, which are tariff barrier like tax and others. But there are hidden barriers, which are known as the technical barrier to trades. So whenever a country wants to export its products, they have to follow the WTO requirements and they have to follow the technical requirements of other countries. So overwork as a scientist, as a student starts here that we have to work on standards and we have to know the technical requirements of other countries. Then accreditation also support the work of regulators. Say for example, there are regulations in different countries. Even on halal, we are also developing technical regulations. So the accreditation always support the work of regulators of each other's countries. These are the cuttings from technical barrier to trade. It's clause article 6.1.1 required the role of accreditations, and accreditation is to conform the requirements of conformity assessment bodies. The second article is technical barrier to trade is 9.2, which requires that the accreditation system also internationally recognized. So the accreditation bodies shall participate in regional and international activities. This is the requirement of WTO. To fulfill the requirements of WTO, Pakistan National Accreditation Council was established in 1998 and its formal act was approved in April 2017. And the Pakistan National Accreditation Council, PNAC, is working under the administrative control of Ministry of Science and Technology. Now the question is, what is accreditation? Accreditation is actually a formal procedures by using it an authoritative body like accreditation body. In case PNAC is accreditation body who is providing the formal recognition. Formal recognition means a certificate for a testing laboratory, a certificate for a certification body. So it based on the competence, and this is for a specific task. The whole laboratory is not accredited. It's only the test. It may be, the laboratory may provide hundreds of tests, but only a few number of tests can be accredited. So we cannot say, like in ISO 9001 or other management system standards, that the organization is certified. Here only the tests methods are accredited. So this is a very specific, highly technical standards, accreditation standards, and in which the difference is the competence of laboratories or certification bodies. By using the other management system standards like ISO 9001, there is no requirement to check the competence of the laboratories. But when the laboratories comply with the accreditation standards like ISO 17025, then it is ensured that the laboratory is competent to perform the tests which are under scope. So this is the brief definition of accreditation. These are the accreditation schemes that we have already launched in Pakistan. We are using 17025 for laboratory, for testing and calibration laboratories. Certification bodies are accredited on ISO 17021. Inspection bodies are accredited on ISO 17020. Medical laboratories on ISO 15189. Halal certification bodies are accredited on PS Pakistan standard 4992. And we are also using the CIMIC 2 standards, which is also for certification bodies. CIMIC 2 for international, and if a national body also required it, to, we are ready to accredit to certification bodies on CIMIC 2 as well. Then proficiency testing on 17043, product certification we have launched as per 17065, and personnel certifications as per 17024. These are some of the bunch of accredited facilities in Pakistan. We have accredited almost 184 laboratories. And out of 184, there are few laboratories which are accredited on halal testing. Say, for example, alcohol content, pork content, GMOs. So we have already accredited in Pakistan a number of laboratories which are accredited on halal testing. Then certification bodies, we have accredited 7, inspection bodies 12, and so on. There is a number. And we have accredited 8 halal certification bodies as well, based on PS 4992. This slide is about the national quality infrastructure. This is a very important slide. So being a student, we have to learn that what is international perspective and what is national quality infrastructure. Every country who wants to export its product and to fulfill the requirements of WTO, they have to have this infrastructure in place. On the top of the list is metrology. Metrology is an institute which provides the metrological traceability to the testing laboratories who are working on ground levels. There should be a system for conformity assessment, say for example, laboratories, certification bodies, inspection bodies in a country to establish a national quality infrastructure. Then accreditation is a main pillar. Then standardization. Standardization are the departments who are developing standards. Say for example, in case of Pakistan, Pakistan Standard Quality Control Authority is the department who was developing the standards. Regulations are also part of national quality infrastructure because the regulations are nowadays very famous. One country's regulations are accepted to the other countries, and they have bilateral and trilateral, multilateral recognition arrangements to accept the regulations of each other. So these are main pillars of national quality infrastructure. Metrology Institute in case of Pakistan, National Physical and Standard Laboratory is designated by Government of Pakistan for metrological traceability. Then PNAC, Pakistan National Accreditation Council, established in 1998 for accreditation. PSQCA, as I have already mentioned, that is a standard developing body. But this infrastructure is useless if this infrastructure has no international linkages. So every department should have international recognitions. Say, for example, metrology department should have international members of BIPM and OIML, and the conformity assessment is covered through accreditation of the conformity assessment bodies. And then the accreditation body should be the member of International Halal Accreditation Forum, International Accreditation Forum, CIMIC, and other regional bodies like Asia Pacific Accreditation Corporation. If the accreditation body is not the member of these international forums, then accreditation will not be accepted worldwide. Then the standard body who is developing standards or adopting international standards should be the member of Codex, IEC, International Electrotechnical Commissions, and ISO, International Organization for Standardization. If a country's Standard Development Council is not the member of these organizations, then the standards they develop will be the local standards and there will be no acceptance internationally. So Alhamdulillah, in Pakistan, all departments have these recognitions, and we all departments are member of these international organizations, Alhamdulillah. At international level, if we speak specifically for halal, so there are two international forums, International Halal Accreditation Forum and CIMIC, as we know. And Alhamdulillah, Pakistan is a member of both of them. So we have international participation through different departments of Pakistan. And on the other hand, there are other regional bodies like Asia Pacific Accreditation Corporation is dealing with the testing laboratories and certification bodies. And there are also some international forums like International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation who deals with the norms of laboratories, and International Accreditation Forum deals with the norms of a certification process. If a person wants to get tested its product, so they have to contact with the laboratory for testing or calibration of its equipment, and the laboratory is mainly based on ISO IC 17025. If we want to inspect our product, process, or our services, the designs, then we have to contact with the inspection body to inspect our product. And if we want to get certified our product as a halal certification or ISO 9001 or 14001, so we have to contact with the certification bodies. These levels are very important part of international tiers, and these are called the conformity assessment bodies. So these conformity assessment bodies are working on international standards or national standards to check the competence of these conformity assessment body, whether the testing is competent, whether the certification is competent, whether the certification is competent. There are mechanisms which is called the accreditation, and accreditation always check the competence of these laboratories, certification bodies and inspection bodies. And inspection bodies, say for example, if it's a pre-shipment inspection, they may require testing and certifications. So in case of halal products, it is also required by another country that the product shall be tested by a testing laboratory. So the requirement of testing laboratories arises here. At a regional level, although there is no currently available regional body for halal, but there is a regional body for laboratories, the Asia Pacific Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, and Pakistan is member of Asia Pacific Laboratory Accreditation Corporation. At international level, we have CIMIC, IEF for halal, and ILAC and IF, as I have mentioned earlier, that they are governing bodies for this. So these all are the tiers which are very important for accreditation, certifications, and check the conformity assessment body's competence. The main objective of these tiers is just to ensure that the product which are tested in Pakistan are accepted worldwide. And it is only possible if the testing laboratory is accredited on the relevant standards. The ISO 17025 and the certification bodies are accredited on the relevant standards. Otherwise, this acceptance will not be acceptable worldwide. No. What is halal? So halal is not only for Muslims, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, Ya ayyuhan nasu qulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiban wa la tattabi'u khutuwati shaitani innahu lakum udwum mubin. This address is not only with the Muslims. This address is with the whole human, with the whole mankind. So the responsibility is on the Muslims to teach the non-Muslims what is halal, what are the requirements of halal, and what are the testing and certification requirements of the halal. In simple words, halal is allowed by a Sharia, permitted by Sharia, Islamic law, rule, Sunnah, and Hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And which is not fulfilled these requirements is non-halal. These are some of the sectors. Not only food is considered as halal or haram, there are also other sectors. Say, for example, cosmetics. Say, for example, pharmaceuticals. Say, for example, finance. Say, for example, tourism. So there are many sectors which are involved in halal activities. So the testing of halal is initiated when we say that the product is halal or haram. For haram, it is very clear. No need to test. Haram is haram. Pork is haram. No need to test. No need to retest. On the other hand, halal is halal. There is no need to test. There is no need to verify that halal is halal unless otherwise it is processed or some other excipients are included in the halal product. So the role of testing laboratories will start when there is a process of halal. Otherwise, there is no need of any testing requirements. But there is another type, mashbu. Mashbu is an Arabic word which means doubtful. And for doubtful, we need certifications. And for doubtful, we need a testing. And these certifications and testing shall be accredited so that their competence can be verified. So role of accreditation is also always important here. A, B, C, D, I, S is prohibited. A, alcohol or drugs. B, blood. C, carnivorous animals. D, dead animals. Emulated foods and swines and others. These are all haram ingredients. The food is also very complex. Food contains animals, plants, synthetics, and fermented products. So the testing requirements starts here. These are some of the testing techniques which are currently used for verification of haram ingredients in a product. The PCR, real-time PCR method, FTIR, NMRs methods are there, GCMS, LCMS, HPLC, and other techniques are used, and all these are referred in these publications. So if anyone wants to develop these methods, they can search these international publications and easily can develop techniques on testing. Currently, these techniques are used by many laboratories, including in Pakistan and outside Pakistan, to verify that the product is halal or haram. Now, why 17025 is for testing laboratories to confirm that the product is haram and halal? So 17025, I feel that 17025 is the main standards to verify that to use by the testing laboratories, because the philosophy of 17025 is to check the valid testing results. The accredited laboratories on 17025 are assumed that they are producing the valid testing results, and exactly this is the philosophy of 17025, to produce valid, technically valid results. The second reason is that there is a special clause for statement of conformity. Say, for example, if a laboratory is not only test a product for haram or halal, they declare that this is conform to this halal standard, they conform to this halal standard, they are passed, they are fail for halal or haram. When the laboratory give a statement of conformity, so there is a special clause in 17025, the 7.8.6.1, which is specifically for the statement of conformity. There is also a special clause on interpretation and opinion of the results. Say, for example, a laboratory just test a product and do not give any interpretation or opinion that this product is fit for Muslim use, this product is fit for human consumption, and this product is halal. So there is a special clause in 17025, 7.8.7.1, which specifically authorizes personals for interpretation and opinion. So I think that the 17025 is a very suitable standard for testing laboratories. This is the brief history of 17025, it start with the guide, just guide 25. Then the standard was established in 99. Second version was in 2005, and the current version is 2017 version. And these two clauses, the statement of conformity and interpretation and opinion, are explicitly addressed in the new version of 17025. This is the main structure of 17025. This structure is based on the latest ISO directives high-level structures. And these are the main clauses: general requirements, structure requirements, resource requirements, and process requirements, and then management system requirements. General requirements, in general requirements, we have further two sub-main clauses, impartiality and the confidentiality. Impartiality means how the laboratory is impartial in their results, in their decisions. Is there any undue pressures? Are there risks to impartiality, say for example commercial pressure, or the financial risk and other risks? And then the confidentiality, this is also a very important clause, because the confidentiality of the customer is very important in any laboratory. Structure has no further sub-clauses, but structure defined that how an organization's communication hierarchy is developed and how the reporting hierarchy is developed, who is on the top and who is the middle and on the bottom level of a laboratory. Then resource requirements. Resource requirements, as you know, that the resources are mainly the human resource, the equipment, the environment. So these clauses are generally addressed on the personnel requirements, facilities and environmental conditions, then equipment for testing of the laboratories, then metrological traceability is also very important, and then external provided product and services. It means that these are the main clauses which define the competence of a laboratory. The personals should be the competent personals who are trained and authorized for specific testing, and the laboratory shall have suitable environmental condition for testing of the products, then equipments and others. The next clause is the process requirement. Process requirement starts when inquiry from any customer is start. So the first requirement is review of the requirement of the customer. What customer actually wants. He wants the product tested, or he wants interpretation and opinion, or he wants statement of conformity. He wants to show that please test my product and declare that this is haram or halal. So the requirement of laboratory starts here. Then there is selection and verification of methods. It is the responsibility of the laboratories to select a suitable method for the testing of halal products. Then sampling. Sampling, maybe this is the sub-sampling, or sampling may not be included in the scope of laboratories. Handling of test item and calibration items, then how they handle the requirements are addressed in this class. Then there are the technical records, how the laboratories produce technical records. Then evaluation of measurement uncertainty. Measurement uncertainty is also very important, because the statement of conformity is dependent on the calculation of measurement uncertainty. Then validation, reporting of the results, complaints, non-conforming works, control of data and information. So this is also new clause of LIMS, the Laboratory Information Management System. Then management system requirements, there are two options: one to adopt ISO 9001, and second to adopt the requirements addressed in ISO 17025. The first requirement is to establish documentation systems, control of management system documentations, then how the laboratory control its records. Then action to address risks and opportunity. This is a new class to laboratories, has to develop a mechanism to identify the risks in all laboratory activities. Then improvement, corrective actions, internal audit, management review, and this is option B. So this is the structure of 17025. Each class required a detailed discussion, but due to the limitation of time, I just want to show that the structure of the 17025 here. Now the question is, what do you think that the analyst should be the Muslim who performed the test? What do you think? So there are two opinions. For my opinion, no. There is no requirement that the analyst should be the Muslim who performed the test. Because analyst is always supported by the sophisticated equipment who actually produce the chromatograms and produce the results. But the persons who are authorized for statement of conformity, say for example, a person who interpret the results that this product based on the test result is haram or halal, that person should be a Muslim. And the person who is authorized for class 7.8.6.1 and 7.8.7.1, that person should be the Muslim, because that Muslim will declare that based on the test of the analyst that this product is halal or haram. So the person who authorized for should be the Muslim, and not only the Muslim, but he has a knowledge of Sharia and others, because to make a decision is not only a Muslim knowledge is required. There should be some other knowledge like the Sharia requirements and the applicable standards which is being used to declare that this product is halal or haram is the most important. If the analyst itself is authorized, then it's okay. But in that case, that analyst should be Muslims. The requirement is the person who is authorized. It may be the analyst itself, or it may be another person. So this is my last slide, and I just briefly tell about the accreditation. Accreditation is a simple process, but it needs a very commitment from the top management others, because it looks like a simple, but it's not as simple as it looks. First of all, we receive an application, and after receiving an application, we conduct a pre-assessment. This is just a gap analysis visit, and then if the laboratory is comply with the requirements, then we recommend them for the full assessments. And in full assessment, we always use the relevant technical experts with us who check the competency of that laboratory. And then if the non-conformities are raised, the laboratory send us the corrective actions, and after closing the corrective actions, the case is recommended to the independent committee who decide that whether the laboratory is recommended for grant of accreditation or not. Then there is a decision over the Director General has the final authority for the issuance of accreditation certificate. Then there is a continual improvement system through first surveillance, second surveillance, and then there is a recertification. A certificate is issued for 3 years, and then there are successive first surveillance and second surveillances. So this is the summary of accreditation process. Thank you very much. And now if you have any question, you are welcome.
We have a shortage with
Yes, they are developing the norms, and accreditation bodies are peer evaluated like in ILAC system, the IHF, but there is another mechanism developed currently in CIMIC. CIMIC has also developing the same system. CIMIC has an accreditation committee. So accreditation committee will peer evaluated the other accreditation bodies. So peer review is the same mechanism as ILAC or IAF.
I think ILAC has one visit at 4 years.
Same norms, because the community is the same, so we are developing the same norms which are already developed. We are not going to experiment a new mechanism or methodology. We are adopting the same mechanism and same methodology which are already implemented by ILAC and IAF.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Azhar Saab, for the elaborated version of lab accreditation requirement. So our next speaker is from Iran, Dr. Mohammad Hussein Shujai. Al-Abidi. Dr. Shujai has actually completed his PhD in pharmacology from the University of London in 1997 on pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics integration and modeling of antibacterial drugs. He worked in government sector for nearly 15 years, mainly in area of veterinary services. Excuse me. He then moved to the private sector and focused on food analytical toxicology. He established his own laboratory in 2006. His current position is with the Farouk Life Sciences Research Laboratory as a director, as well as the laboratory manager. Currently, he was appointed as a CIMIC committee on standards for confirmatory assessment chairman to serve a 3 years period from 2016 till 2019. He is a member of board of directors and general assembly as representative of Iran, as well as a member of technical committees or working groups as a technical expert at Standards and Meteorological Institute for Islamic countries. So it's a long details about his introduction. So with these brief lines, I would again Brother Hussein, we used to in touch so many times during the civic meetings. So once again, good to see you, Brother Hussein. So now forum is yours. Continue.
Thank you, Professor Ghulam. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes, quite audible.
Good. And I need to I need to share my slides with you. Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah al-mutajalli bi jamalih al-muhtajibu bi jalalih wa salawatu ala Muhammadin wa alih. Thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting. The topic of my presentation is Introduction to OIC SMIC 35 and Challenges with Halal Authenticity. Let us speak about OIC SMIC 35 2020. Actually, this is the conformity assessment, general requirements for competence of laboratory performing halal testing. Therefore, it is almost based on ISO 17025. I will try to pick up those parts which have been added. Therefore, first, it is in scope, it is a general requirements, and it is about all organizations performing laboratory activities are included. And also it says that, the existing national law and regulations are, should be complied as well. We have three normative reference, the 17025, 17,000, which it is a vocabulary and general principle, and OIC SMIC 1, which it is the general requirements for halal food. And the term of reference also comes from these. You can see that, on four, on impartiality, confidentiality, we are just fully, applying the same principle. On the 5 structural requirements, it says that, the laboratory shall appoint a member of staff who shall be a competent Muslim, irrespective of other duties and responsibility, and shall define responsibility and authority for ensuring the active of halal testing is implemented. Therefore, that is, we need one competent Muslim, and also there should be a direct access to the highest level of management. In the 5.2, it says that, the laboratory employees shall be committed to all Islamic values, especially those related to halal. If you look, in OIC SMIC 2, we have a concept of Islamic entity, which means that the legal entity which it is wholly owned by Muslims and at the same time managed and operated by Muslims. But you can see that, for halal testing, we didn't put these harsh requirements, and only we said that, you know, two issues, which it is, first, it should be a competent Muslim should be there, and also about the, you know, commitment to the Islamic value by all employees. Under 6.1, it's the same thing. On 6.2, we have we said that, you know, the laboratory shall have a suitable training planned for laboratory staff, which should be relevant to the area and topic of halal. Of course, the record of training should be kept properly. And 6.22, it says that, you know, the laboratory shall ensure that technical personnel assigned to perform halal testing should be Muslim. Therefore, here we say that the person should be a Muslim and should undergo appropriate halal related training, and the competent personnel authorized to review and authorization of halal testing results shall be a Muslim. Therefore, we don't ask that, you know, the ownership should be Muslim, but we are asking that, you know, the operation and the management should be Muslim in the respect of the test which is doing. In 6.3, it is added that, you know, it's you know, trying to pick up on the issue of the minimizing the risk of cross-contamination, especially when we're doing about the nucleic acids amplification. We need the separate rooms, and we should avoid the risk of cross-contamination. On the issue of the equipment, in 6.4, it says that, you know, the equipment which used for the laboratory purpose shall not be made of or contain any material that decreed as a non-halal or najis by the law of Islam. And oil and greases which are used for the maintenance, which may contact come in contact with the products, shall not shall be food grade and shall not contain any non-halal or najis components. Under metrological traceability and the externally provided products and services, the same clauses are applied. The same for 7, and I just passed them, you know, and the method validation was the same. Of course, on the method validation, I have to say that, you know, we have a very good, you know, foundation in OIC SMIC 1, 2001, 2019 about general requirements for halal. It says that, you know, on the clause 10, it says that halal authenticity conformity test methods of analysis used for halal food control purposes shall be provided beyond a reasonable doubt 3 things. First, objectively identify from a halal source. That means that, you know, the products you know, in a plain English, comes from a halal source. And then the second is that, you know, it should be from any non-halal or najis components, but this should be according to the risk approach. And I will try to explain in the next slide. And the requirements of the slaughtering to Islamic rules are fulfilled wherever is possible. Therefore, these are 3 main objectives. If you look at the OIC SMIC FDS 22, which it is the halal edible gelatin requirements and test methods, and there is a table 1, and within table 1, we explain about the halal authenticity. Therefore, it says that first, you know, authenticity test of raw material should be positively identified. Therefore, that means that if we have a gelatin mainly is produced 99% from 2 species, from bovine and porcine. The rest of them, which it is mainly, you know, aquatic source and a bit of production from poultry skin, is about 1%. Therefore, that's not the issue for us. And therefore, if it is comes from bovine, we should positively find it comes from bovine. And the second is that, you know, authenticity test for halal animal origin, therefore positively should be identified. Therefore, first we need to make sure that the material are arriving to the factory are positively identified, and the second, the final products is positively identified. And also at the same time, we need to test that the authenticity of non-halal animal origin. And that's a big risk-based. And risk-based, the highest risk would be the porcine. Therefore, it should be negative. And for that, we accept the limit of detection of a validated method. Also, we have the positive identification of halal slaughtering provisions whenever possible. Therefore, that means that, if it comes from the bovine, it should be slaughtered properly according to OIC SMIC 1. And confirmation of the traceability of raw material also positively should be confirmed, which comes from the bone, skin, and also if it is an acid or lime type, or type A and type B. In 7.4, handling of test calibration, we added one subclause, which it is: the laboratory shall document the measures to be taken to ensure no cross-contamination between samples. Therefore, that is a very important issue, which the laboratory should show. And measures shall include method of cleaning according to Islamic rules for equipment, area, laboratory staff which have been in contact with non-halal sources. And there shall be a proper sample segregation and storage prior to testing and during examination process to ensure no contamination. As you can see that for the rest of the 7, we have all, we are complying almost same as 17025. In 7.8.3, a specific requirement for test report, it says that, laboratories shall not issue a halal mark on the report. And about the suitability of the product in question as halal, the laboratory shall only provide technical, scientific test results and interpretation of its analysis in the report. Therefore, that is very important, and Islamic interpretation of the results are beyond the competency of the laboratory and shall be avoided. The rest of the 7 are the same, and also you can see that they also on the clause 8 management system requirements also is the same thing. Now the other part of my talk, which I'll try to speak about the Islam and science and how these two could be overlap. When we measure, we have a measurand, a quantity or property intended to be measured. Sometimes we are checking a surrogate marker. Sometimes we are looking at a target marker. How specific that would be, could be destroyed, could be masked. For example, if you are looking, in a speciation test, when checking the DNA in a meat is a target marker, but the DNA in gelatin is a surrogate marker. The reason is that, they might not always present there. And the segments of the, bovine, for example, alpha-1 collagen tryptic peptides are the target marker, of course, in gelatin. And there is a two-way table. Therefore, when we have a test results, we have a, true positive halal and haram, and then we have a true negative halal and haram, and then we have a, a system which there are true positive, false negative, and true negative. If you look at the distribution of quantitative test results among the halal and haram, you can see that, we have a true negative and a true positive. But we are lucky if we can have such a good separation. In this case, we can put a threshold for a positive results. But the reality is like this, which, the threshold, whenever we have a threshold, there is a possibility of false negative and false positive. Therefore, you can change the threshold to make sure that, the, for the positive results. Also, you can have a threshold for, that's, only true positive remains. About the definition of a halal food integrity, I would like to say also that, this is also an important issue, because we need to understand that, we have a safety, we have a quality, we have a authenticity, as well as the halal, the halal status of a product. Therefore, we should try to understand this concept better. There would be always, some misunderstanding on the halal. There are, sometimes not a clear technical definition, or maybe there are limited awareness in different sections. And then fraudulently labeled imitations also would be there. But go to the science and Islam. There are times, something like a lunar calendar. If we talk about the full moons means that, hundreds illumination of the moon, which can be seen from the earth. And that could be easily calculated. But what it is a new moon? The new moon, the definition is very difficult to be 100% comparable to science. It says that, the minimum amount which, a naked eye can see from the earth. And the science will tell us that would be approximately 5%. But this is not a definite. Therefore, for the definition of the full moon, we have 100% overlap between the scientific definition and the Islamic definition. But in case of the new moon, regrettably, you cannot do that. If we say it is 5%, of course it is calculatable. But if you are, the criteria is very, it cannot be converted to a scientific numbers, then we cannot predict. That's the reason that for the new moon, always there is a discussion, which it is, when would be the Eid al-Fitr and this sort of thing. If we read Holy Quran, it says أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. What does it mean? That, it talks about لدلوك الشمس. In the northern hemisphere, we will see that, the sun comes from the east and goes to the top of the sky. And then in this case, the shadow will go towards the west. And more it comes to the Salat Zohr, or the sun will go in the center of the sky, and the shadow will be, depending where you are, it became less and less. If you are in equator, it would be almost zero. And then you have a shift, which the shadow goes now to the east as sun goes to the west. That is called the Duluk Shams. That is very easy. We can always calculate that. But the Salat al-Fajr also is a difficult one, because it says that, the first light comes from the, when the actually sun is under the horizon. And therefore, in some school of thought, they will take it minus 18%. In some school of thought, they are taking it at 12%, minus 12%. Therefore, these are difficult to be scientifically, explained. Let us talk about the, about the condition for tazkiyah. What is the tazkiyah? Tazkiyah means that it's a process through that, meat could be edible. Therefore, it should be from the halal animal, and also after performing a tazkiyah. I remember a few years back, And I heard this one very nicely from Mufti Taghi Usmani myself, that, he said it excellently, that, by default, all plants are halal, and all, unless there is an issue, and then all meats are haram, illa ma zakkaytum, unless there is a tazkiyah. Therefore, that means that, if we can prove beyond a doubt that, olive oil is 100% olive oil, then you can certify them as a halal as well. But in case of the meat, we have to establish the tazkiyah has been done. Okay, to do a, for validation of the halal analytical method steps, first we have to provide a proof of concept. Theoretically and practically, we should have the performing in-house validation of analytical method based on international guidelines, which now, fortunately, we are developing it at OIC SMIC, and my thanks to Excellency Mr. Ihsan Ovut, who talked today, and his great team over there. And then we need also conducting an inter-laboratory study, determine validation of that analytical method. Okay, if we want to say, for example, I think that, I covered this one, but, in case of non-halal, it could go beyond a lot of things. For example, about mono and diglyceride fatty acid, are they coming from animal or not? And, if you look at these three things, objectively identify the halal source, and then the second is the non-halal and najis components free. These are all about authenticity. And then the most difficult part, which is the fulfillment of the Islamic slaughtering requirement, or tazkiyah, which it is actually, not only it is most difficult one, it is less explored. For example, one thing, we can say that, if we want to look at the, we should, at the moment, we should borrow a lot of science from the other parts. In forensic science, there are times that, they can distinguish between the, a fresh wound or an old wound. In case of a fresh wound, it means that, if you slaughter an animal, and an animal is alive at the time of the slaughtering, then there would be a mast cell degeneration within a surgical wound margin, which then you can look at under a microscope, or maybe in the future you might come up with some mediators to be measured. Therefore, that's, for example, a concept we can look. My last part of the talk is about the adulteration in food and the challenges which it is bring to halal. This is the list of top 10 adulterated products at EU. The olive oil is in the top, fish, organics, milk, grains, just name it, spices. What is the root of problem? The root of problem is that we have a non-specific method of testing. We have an assay without identification, or identification through component measurement. Therefore, really the best way is that, in pharmaceutical, what we do, we have an identification test. Therefore, we have a direct proof. First, your antibiotic, for example, tetracycline, should be a tetracycline. And then second, you have to measure the, amount and the quality of it. And then also you have to look at the safety. But in food test, what it is missing, that, we only do the quality test, and that it, the actually proof by contradiction means that, something which it is, for example, in the standards, it says that, what is the lime juice, it is acidic, any liquid which it is acidic, with with a small amount of protein, these sorts of things, you can say, okay, that's not the lime juice. But the problem is that if you do this, serial quality test, also people can emit that issue. This is just showing that this is a antiviral nalfenavir, which in pharmaceutical, through the, for example, NMR spectrum, they can confirm, and then also they do the HPLC assay as well. Okay, what went wrong? For example, the issue of the melamine in contaminated milk. What happened that, we have a Keldal method, which we measure the nitrogen, actually we digest, neutralize, distill the nitrogen, and then we titer, after titration with hydrochloric acid, we come up with the amount of nitrogen. But then there are how this method used to work. For example, we had the meat, we can recognize the meat, and also we do the Keldal. But regrettably, when we are going to a white powder like a milk, then they can add things which bring nitrogen, like melamine. Therefore, this is a problem. I talk about the lime juice. Let us give my own experience on that. We can look at the organic acids. We have an NMR methods, which is based on NMR 400, and they can come up. There is a chemometrics system which you can, from that platform, you can measure and come up with the understanding what it is, the components of in your orange juice or lime juice. But one thing, it is very good, if you check organic acid, which then in case of that there is a isocitric acid. Isocitric acid is always there if it is a genuine product, and because it's only produced at a small amount in the plant. But if you produce it with the fermentation, you cannot get that in citric acid. Therefore, if you add citric acid, you will have the lack of isocitric acid. Therefore, the ratio of the isocitric acid to citric acid can help you to determine which it is a genuine product or not. But look at this one. What we did when we used the NMR method in a lab in Germany in products, we saw that there is a high glycerol in one of the lime juices. That means that they add the glycerin or glycerol to a compound, and then we don't know that is it comes from which source. Therefore, that will bring a danger to halal status of a product. Or in one case, there is a high ethanol content, but that is a more something not added ethanol, but it comes because of the bad production. And that is the citric acid and isocitric acid. We can do it with HPLC, but the best method perhaps is okay. You can use with LCMSMS. And I just passed this few slides. There is a very important issue about the targeted versus non-targeted analytical approach. And in the non-targeted, we can have a fingerprint. It's a high throughput. We can we can use chemometric software modeling to find out a problem. One issue, for example, it's very important on the omics, on genome transcript tomics, protomics, and metabolomics, which they are at the 4 level. We might be able to make a investigation. For example, in a genomics, we can propose such a thing. We can have a mixture of the a PCR method or a next generation method based on a few things. Therefore, for example, if we have a sheep meat wall, we should see the sheep DNA, onion, and potato as an ingredient. There might be, lavage and pepper, which might be missing, but also adulterant like beef or pork might be exist. Therefore, that type of method will help us to find out a good approach for halal. I try to pass this slide. I leave this slide for you. What we did, from 2019, we work on a FTIR method for gelatin speciation, and that's the modeling which we did. We modeled porcine, animal glue, and bovine gelatin. And for bovine, we have a true positive sensitivity rate of 91% and true negative specificity of 100%. And for porcine, we have a true positive sensitivity rate of 100 and true negative of specificity of 98.9%. The same, we did something with the university in Tehran about with the handheld near IR for the speciation of the 4 meats, the bovine, ovine, poultry, and porcine meat, on which you can see them well defined. One of we have other type of works like 2 class of techniques: stable isotope analysis and trace elements. We know that, for example, there is a very good excellent quotation in Quran: وَالْبَلَدُ الطَّيِّبُ يَخْرُجُ نَبَاتُهُ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِ وَالَّذِي خَبُثَ لَا يَخْرُجُ إِلَّا نَكِدًا. It says that when the land is tayyib, is good, it emerge good products. When it is bad, nothing except difficulty comes out. Means that, for example, in the rice issue, this is a data from India. You can see that, in the arsenic level, when it is soil arsenic, it's about 17.5 ppm. We have a mean of 380, almost 400 ppb arsenic in rice, and when it is the soil arsenic is 6.2. This is dropped to 29.1. One very good example I will try to stop in 1 or 2 minutes is that about the iron. We know that the stable isotope of iron are 54, 56, 57, 58. The majority of it is almost 92% are 56. There was a very good work in few years back in Switzerland. They found out that there is a difference between the Swiss woman and Thai woman in their the ratio of the ratio of their stable isotope of iron, and therefore they can distinguish in them. Based on that, we did one work myself that we can distinguish between the males and females in the blood from the delta 57 to delta 56, and you can see them. There is a very good possibility of prediction, and the same things could be done by the hemoglobin. If that's the case, we can do it in myoglobin, and that will help us to do a test in the meat and see that from which species come. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shujai. Indeed, a very informative scientific talk. But due to shortage of time, we would not be able to take any question from the forum. So, but you would be, a part for this continuous exercise. So maybe sometime we can ask questions to you. If any specific questions, then we can email you as well to get the answer. So thank you very much, brother, once again. So now, without delaying, our last speaker, certainly not the least, is Dr. Muhammad Ali. Dr. Ali is actually an associate professor of clinical pharmacy, drug information. He finished his PhD in clinical pharmacy in 2040 from Malaysia. Uh, he is actually working as a one of the important member of CIMIC since last several years, and he is the convener of the porcine detection expert working group responsible for developing standards and analytical methods related to halal authenticity and porcine detection. And he is one of the important persons who actually involved in arranging the all speakers from across the world. So personally, brother, I'm very thankful to you. So now the forum is yours. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is the voice, you can hear my voice?
Yes, it's clear, please.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Should I share the presentation?
Yes.
No, Bismillah. Just 1 minute for these technical issues. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It's time for lunch, so I will not make very long speech. I will try to make this this topic easy, inshallah. It's kind of promotion for our CIMIC standards, and really our standard need this promotion because there is a lot of work to produce these standards, and still not all people aware about the published standard from CIMIC. So inshallah, you will learn more about CIMIC standard in this presentation. So the title is Porcine and Ethanol Detection, Concept and Regulation in CIMIC Standards. As usual, I'd like to start with some question like the academia, just to make you think about the topic of this presentation. At the end, inshallah, we will give the answer and speak about it. So the first question, why we need to do exam and tests? Why there is laboratory? Why there is exam? This is the first one. The second question, what is the date of the first Islamic dinar? You know, the Islamic dinar from gold, first time it's produced in the second year of Hijrah, after Hijrah, 25, 45, or 74 after Hijrah. If you see the photo, there is a castle in Aleppo, very famous castle, maybe one of the biggest in the world. And you can see the trench around the castle. And in Arabic, we call it khandaq. So what's the origin of the word khandaq? And next question, what is the meaning of this proverb? In Arabic, dirham wiqaya khayrun min qintar ilaj. So an ounce of prevention is better than pound of cure. Okay, let's go to our topic. In general, this is the criteria that we look when we produce CIMIC standard in different topic. We request consultation from experts. We go in the prevention is better than cure concept. We adopt the suitable and good from other people. We don't reinvent the wheel. And finally, creativity and innovation. The first point, request consultation from expert. You cannot make standard without speaking with the expert in the field. And the most important field for halal standard is the Islamic rules, the Sharia part of any standard. If you make all the technical things right and you mess with the Sharia and Islamic rules part, the standard will not be accepted by Muslims. So for this reason, CIMIC every time work in cooperation with the International Islamic Fiqh Academy in Jeddah, which is part of OIC organization. And at the same time, it's invited to all our technical committee members, technical committee meetings. You may know that CIMIC has 17 technical committees beside the committee of conformity and assessment. That's mean 18 committee. And all of these committee make regular meeting every 6 months and some online meeting between these meetings. And it's not limited to halal, but we have big focus on the halal products. So we have 5 committees for halal issues. We have halal food issues, TC number 1, halal cosmetic issues, halal tourism, halal supply chain, halal pharmaceuticals, and also halal management systems. So in general, in our committees, we ask if each country to send the expert from their side, and also the National Islamic and Fatwa department represented in our technical committees. For the part of the Islamic rules, we look every time for the common and majority accepted opinion. What is accepted by the majority of the Islamic fiqh schools? Because you are looking for the majority of the Muslim Ummah, not for the Hanafi madhab or Shafi'i madhab. And this is why we ask the Islamic Fiqh Academy every time, because they have scholars from all of these madhab and they try to take the opinion for the majority of the Muslim Ummah. Some people say that the strict is good. Strict is always good. This is not halal, this is not halal. Make this thing every time, stop from the source. This is one opinion. There is another opinion in the fiqh people. Make it easy for the people. Taysir. That's mean you make easy for these people. This is allowed every time. So which concept we are follow in CIMIC? Actually, there is one famous hadith عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. The translation that's which is lawful is clear and which is unlawful is clear. And between the two of them are doubtful matters about which many people don't know. So the very clear halal, very clear haram, this is easy to make standard for them. The problem in these problematic issues between them, the mushtabihat between them. And in the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many people don't know, but some people know. We should look for this, some people, for this expert and ask them. And this is CIMIC concept. We look for the expert, we ask for this doubtful things, and we follow their opinion, inshallah. And we try to involve as much as expert as we can from national level and the International Islamic Fiqh Academy. This is the first concept in the regulation of porcine and ethanol in CIMIC standard. For example, practical exam for this, to which strict level we are in CIMIC standard. I'll give you an example of about ethanol. So we have different standard. The same concept of the ethanol is a little bit different from one standard to another. For example, in OIC CIMIC 1, ethanol is completely not allowed in food. In CIMIC 4, which is about cosmetic, it's accepted in external use for cosmetic. In CIMIC 24, halal food additives, it's limited use with many restrictions for food additives. And there is a project now, CIMIC 38, the limits of natural ethanol in products. Also, it's limited with restriction limits for the natural fermentation ethanol. We are speaking about ethanol, not about khamr. Khamr is 100% not accepted in all CIMIC standard, but ethanol, the fuqaha, the scholars have different opinion about it. So we study this issue with the experts, and we have different opinion for the same issue in different standards. It's 100% not accepted in food. It's accepted with very limited limits, with many restriction in food additives. It's accepted with certain limits according to study with laboratories in natural fermentation limits. So for this point, we asked the expert and we tried to take the suitable answer from them. Next thing in CIMIC standards concept, prevention is better than cure. It's every time good to prevent contamination with non-halal than test the non-halal later. And this is a famous concept in CIMIC standard, all of CIMIC standard. Now I will speak with you about all CIMIC standards to see example of this concept. Actually, even in medicine, we say prevention is better than cure. If you spend 1 dirham in Arabic, if you spend 1 dirham to prevent, it's better than spend 1,000 dinar after that for cure. This is the concept of prevention. So in CIMIC standard, every time we have strict rules for segregation between halal and non-halal. We have strict rules to change factory from non-halal to halal production. For example, we have a factory in non-Muslim countries. For example, they produce non-halal meat, but they'd like now to move to produce halal meat. So the rule that we allow them one time to change from non-halal to halal after strict cleaning process described in the standard. In halal pharmaceutical, for example, we have a concept that halal built in rather than tested for, because it's very difficult to test the halal pharmaceuticals. So from the beginning, we make this concept in our standard, which is under process now, to take this concept, halal built in rather than tested for. This is general concept in CIMIC standards. Let's go for, just take a look for CIMIC standards about halal issues. For example, in halal food, CIMIC number 1, there is segregation, complete segregation in all process and production of food. Also, there is complete restrict for khamr that it's not used. We have CIMIC 2 and CIMIC 3 for accreditation and halal certification bodies, and we have strict rules for a Muslim entity to prevent some misuse of the management on the worker on this under them. We have CIMIC 4 halal cosmetics, CIMIC 6 for restaurants. We have halal tourism general requirements. Also, we have prevention, a lot of prevention in the term, and we have special requirement for each category in different halal tourism services. In the halal supply chain management, we have one standard with 3 parts. The first one for the transportation, the second one for warehousing, and the third one for retailing stores. In all of them, there is strict rules for the prevention of contamination of non-halal with halal. In the food additives, also there is strict rules on the using of ethanol with many conditions. We take it from the fatwa of the Islamic Fiqh Academy, when we can use ethanol and when, to which extent, to which level, to which percentage we can use it. And with this condition, you can find it in the standard. This morning, Mr. Ihsan, he speak about 4 standard published last year. CIMIC 33, 34, 35, and 36. Dr. Shujai speak about 35, CIMIC 35, which is especially for halal laboratory. All these standards also make strict rules for prevention, halal from non-halal, and adoption the suitable concept from other ISO standards. Actually, there is another point in CIMIC that we adopt the suitable standard and the suitable things from other people if it's suitable to our Islamic studies. Okay, let's speak a little bit about our porcine detection group. There is CIMIC TC1, halal food issues. There is working group under this TC. It's the expert working group on test method for detection of porcine and ethanol in food products and cosmetics. The working group established in 2018 under TC2, the halal cosmetic. Then it's come under TC1, the halal food. The first meeting was in 2019, April. The second meeting in September 2019, and the last meeting was last year, virtually in 2020. We have 24 experts from different countries. The countries Indonesia, Iran, Jordan, Malaysia, Morocco, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Thailand, and Turkey. Alhamdulillah, we have 24 very good scientists joining this group. And I think inside this training course, there is 8 of them in this training course. So the goal of this working group is to create test method for detection of porcine in cosmetic products and food. As you know, there is different level of validation for any test method. There is in-house validation, inter-laboratory validation, laboratory validation, and there is the international inter-laboratory comparison. So our goal is to make proficiency testing for inter-laboratory comparison. Actually, we start to accept validated method from our member countries. Each member country can submit their validated method to be adopted as CIMIC standard. Then we will do the inter-laboratory study. So we request from our member countries to send their method in detection of porcine contamination in meat and meat products, meat speciation, detection of porcine contamination in processed food, detection method of porcine gelatin, detection method of porcine contamination in cosmetics, detection method of ethanol in food and in cosmetics. The yellow one, the one that you find in yellow, until now we didn't receive enough validated method in this field, so we invite our member countries to share with us their method if they have it. So we have 2 projects now under this working group, TC1, working group 1. The project working draft standard number 25, CIMIC 25, test method for detection of porcine in food products and cosmetics. And CIMIC 26, this method of detection of ethanol in food product and cosmetics. We received 1 method from Malaysia. They nominate 1 method from their side, 2 methods from Saudi Arabia, 4 from Thailand, and 2 from Turkey. And inshallah, we will do an inter-laboratory study experiment, inshallah, in the near future. This is the expected number of laboratory which will join this this experiment, inshallah. From Indonesia, 2 laboratory, from Iran, 2 laboratory, from Jordan, 1, Malaysia, 3. As you see in the table, from Turkey is 3. Some of them is private laboratory, some of them is government laboratory, but all of them is accredited laboratory. Actually, the working group make criteria for the validated method that we receive it. We evaluate according to this criteria. After this, we prepare budget and program for this project. We submit it to CIMIC General Secretariat. Now it will be submitted to CIMIC General Secretariat to be accepted, inshallah. The project will include training on the selected methods, the 4 methods, preparation of the sample, and sending the sample to all laboratory which will join this experiments. And after that, the statistic evaluation of all results. If the result is okay and the interlaboratory study is okay, this method will be processed as one of the method standards of CIMIC. Okay, let's come to the next concept of CIMIC standard. It's adopting of the suitable method from other people. We don't reinvent the wheel. So actually in our working group, we make different studies for available standard to know if it's suitable to adopt or not. For example, we study the GSO standard 17494 2001, which is built on the ISO standard, and also the ISO standard 2448, both of them about the determination of ethanol content. And also we study ISO TS 20224, which is about molecular biomarker analysis, detection of animal-derived materials in porcine DNA detection. So the working group study this method, if it's suitable to adopt or not. Unfortunately, not because the halal concept is not clear with non-Muslim people. This standard cannot be adopted 100% by CIMIC. We can adopt with many modifications, and the recommendation is to keep going in our methods because it's more accurate or more suitable for our test. I borrow this slide from Mr. Rafaki, our member from Indonesia. He makes study about adopting of ISO 224 part 3 for porcine detection, porcine DNA detection. So this is ISO standard. There is limitation for this method because it's limited for meat. It's also limited for beta-actin gene. It's limited for special type of for domestic pig, not for wild pig. So he give his comment about this standard and the limitation of this standard. And the final conclusion is if we'd like to accept and adopt this standard, we should accept it as limited for meat, not for all type of DNA detection. And we should exclude other foodstuffs, and we should make more studies to improve this method by ISO. Same here, you can see an example from a letter come from our expert from Saudi FDA. They send their opinion about the ISO standard for determination of ethanol. So, for example, he said, the process include many steps, homogeneity, distillation, oxidation, and titration. These steps may lack of accuracy during the process by losing ethanol content in the represented sample. So this is important point that our method that's suggested by Saudi Arabia for detection ethanol don't have all of this process, which make the method a good advantage above the ISO 1. Also, he mentioned about the concern that there is many steps, concern that there is the gas chromatography method they suggest it's much better. So usually in CIMIC, our goal is to adopt the suitable standard if it's comply with our needs. The majority of CIMIC standards build on ISO standard plus the Islamic rules. For example, CIMIC 1 is ISO 2022, 22,000, and with Islamic rules. So we don't have any problem to adopt the suitable things from the other people. Rasulullah SAW, he adopts some ideas from non-Muslim people if it's suitable for him. The idea of khandaq during the Ghazwat al-Khandaq to make trench around the Medina to prevent the direct contact between the two armies is actually from Faris, from Persia. And this is the word come from where? Khandaq is come from Persian language. So in Islam, we don't have any problem to adopt anything from other people if it's suitable for our concept. The Islamic dinar is the first Islamic dinar was very long time from the death of our Prophet ﷺ in 1740 after Hijrah. For all of this long period, Muslim used the same coins, the same dinar of other countries until they become strong and they produce their own dinars. So the last point in CIMIC standard is creativity and innovation. When you become strong, you start to make creativity, ideas, make new innovation, and alhamdulillah, we reach this point in different countries with our members. Alhamdulillah, CIMIC is a very small organization in concept of general secretariat. General secretariat is only 8 people working or 9 people working in the general secretariat. But we have literally thousands of experts in our members' bodies. So alhamdulillah, now we start to do this creation and innovation. You can see in this training course, different speakers will speak about their method which they developed. For example, Dr. Said Ghulam will speak about his method about differentiation about the biha and non-dabiha. Dr. Isra from Turkey will speak about her method for detection of processed food, porcine in the processed food, which is very difficult things to make it. Sister Dr. Nortini from Malaysia will speak about meat speciation, and others friend will speak also about their innovation and ideas. So this is some of the ideas which we start to study in porcine detection group also. We start to study the rapid halal test kit, distinguishing between natural and synthetic ethanol, and distinguishing between halal, starter, dabiha, and non-dabiha. In general, in every presentation, we said that the conclusion, CIMIC standards are results of common study of OIC members and its partner through the technical committees. CIMIC is a common platform to set for all stakeholders. OIC CIMIC Halal standards are common standards for the Muslim world and all interested parties. So I hopefully, inshallah, I give you a good picture about CIMIC standards and how it's built. Come back to the question just to finish. Why we need the exam? Because people are cheating every time. From the first time, people on the earth, they are cheating and you cannot trust them. So you need to do tests. Don't trust anyone. And the dinar, we start in 74th of Hijrah. And it's an idea how we adopt other people, which is suitable for our concept. Same for the Khandaq, which is come from Faris Persian language. And at the end, dirham wiqaya khayru min qintar ilaj. If you spend small amount on prevention, it's much better than cure. And this is important concept in all CIMIC standard. Thank you so much for your listening. Hopefully this was not too long for you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, brother, for indeed a wonderful talk. Unfortunately, we are running short of time, so would not be able to have a question from the forum. But once again, we are very thankful to you, and I think you would also be a speaker for another session, maybe tomorrow, I think, sometime. So if there is any question, then we may continue with the questions as well. So once again, thank you very much. So now this session is closed, and we will resume for the next session at 2:20 sharp. So now we have a lunch and prayer break. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, brother. Yeah, please be on time because the speaker